Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started now that it's about 12:10. Tiffany, would you like to start us off?
Yes. So again, thank you for everyone who showed up and is eager to learn from these lovely ladies. I will say the agenda. We're first gonna have everyone on the panel introduce themselves, and I would like if you ladies could include how you got into artist management, followed by the questions that I'll be asking them, and then we will have some Q&A. And then, as Alexi said, we will have the additional chance to do some networking at the end of the event. I believe Bhavin just put in the link in the chat. It's a Google Share Doc. Oh, yep, he did. So that you all can put in your information, again, for networking purposes. And then, of course, I do ask that everyone go on mute so that we can alleviate any echo or anything like that. So with that, I'm very excited. And like I said, can you guys, whoever wants to start first with your introduction and a brief description of how you got into artist management? Anybody?
I can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go first. It's always awkward being the first person, so I'll jump in. Hi, my name is Charlene Bryant. I am the founder of Riveter Management. I currently manage Trippie Red. How I got started. Oh, by the way, thank you, Finessed Media, Tiffany, everybody for this panel. This is just a dope panel of badass women, and I'm honored to be on here. So thank y'all for taking the time. I got started in artist management when Trippie's mom called me 2 years ago and just reached out and said, hey, my son is blowing up on SoundCloud. We don't know what to do. I hear that you work in the music industry. We're from the same small town, Canton, Ohio. And she heard that I, had been in the music business working at a label for years. So she just reached out and said, I need help. And I started with him just as a preliminary consultant for 90 days or so, I thought. And we fell in love with each other, and that was it. So that was July of 2018. So I've been working with him for 2 years now.
I can go next. I would also like to thank you for having me. I'm kind of a baby manager of sorts, I suppose, but I started off working with Madam Gandhi kind of as an intern, and I met her in the summer of 2017, and she just kind of brought me on to help her with some stuff as she was between management, and brought me on as her tour manager while I was still in school, and kind of over time I just kept on taking on more responsibility with the project, 'cause it's a really small team. And then I kind of just fell into the role, I'm gonna be completely honest. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I started working with 2 other bands called Winter and Mom Malarkey, both of which I also play bass in. And yeah, that's kind of how I started managing artists, I suppose.
I guess I'll go next. So my name is Brittney Boston, and I have a management company called Supreme Republic Entertainment. I started managing when I was getting my second master's at Full Sail University a couple years ago. I was managing a songwriter. I was a songwriter and met this songwriter and really liked him. Moved to LA, started working for Neo, and yeah, how did I start managing Dax? We were friends for a while. I tried to sign him to Capitol Records, and it just happened organically. It wasn't something that I was trying to do, but here we are today. So that's that. Can y'all hear me? Why y'all?
Yes. Thank you. We're trying to get in contact with Trophy. but in the interim, we'll keep the balls rolling. And I see someone just asked Charlene a question. If you can hold those until the actual Q&A part of the section, I promise we will try to get to all of your questions. But we do want to, keep the agenda going. So if and when Trophy does come on, we will have her introduce herself briefly. But thank you for all of your introductions. So I do want to get into the meat and the potatoes of the conversation. We're talking about entrepreneurship, and Finessed Media is obviously about badass women doing some badass things. And I know all of you ladies have your hands into your own entrepreneurial ventures. So my first question is going to be, how do you remain innovative and visible in such an oversaturated market? Meaning there are so many artists and, so many streaming platforms and all of that. So how do you guys remain, especially with Trippie, his SoundCloud success, how do you remain successful? And I don't know which one of you would want to answer that first, but we can go in reverse. So I'll start with Brittney.
That was a setup. All right. How do you remain innovative? I think it starts with the artist first. Because a lot of the creativity and the ideas come from them. So just really, I think content is the key. Just being, I can really just speak to Dax and our relationship. Dax is very cinematic. He is expressive through music videos and not art form. So when it comes to creating content, we're always thinking of ways to not necessarily go viral, but to spark a conversation. And so just really doing things that are unconventional. You have to pay attention to the market, see what's kind of going on, how to fit what's trending to what your vision is, and just pulling inspiration from everywhere, So let me see if I can give you an example. I don't know if I want to get into this too deeply because I think this is one of the questions you have for us, but one of Dax's biggest songs is called Dear God. And I don't know if you guys seen the video, but it's kind of like, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which is already a touchy topic. So, when you have a rap artist making a song that's going to spark interest and conversation, and the visual is as compelling as that, those are the ways to really stay innovative and get people's attention. So yeah, just staying fresh on the content.
So with Madam Gandhi, who, if you're not familiar with her work, she is a musician and an activist, and she, weaves her activism into her music a lot. It's a really big part of her artistry as well. I think something that really helps to stay current and stay innovative is weaving really intentionally the story behind everything you're putting out. So, fitting it into the context of the current state of the world, or, if it isn't a blatantly political song, if it's a love song, making it a story that entices people and wants people to listen to it and engage with the work, and also creating the branding around it that, invites people in and makes it something recognizable. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on what Noor mentioned, just being relevant. With Tripp, he is his own branding genius, so I just kind of feed into that. Prime example, one of the things, everyone was on TikTok before TikTok was supposed to shut down, and doing the Ray J One Wish challenge. So it was raining outside, Tripp did the One Wish challenge and was dancing in the rain. I always encourage him, whatever is going on, whether or not it's a challenge or something silly or something political, he was definitely pivotal in speaking to his label and making them step up after George Floyd was murdered, and spoke into hey, I'm a Black artist and this is important to me. You guys have to do something. So I definitely encourage him to be himself at all times. And that in itself makes him his brand, but it also makes him super authentic and connect and engage with his fans because people see that he's a real person. So I've always maintained the reason why I'm a huge Cardi B fan is she is unapologetically herself. So any artist that I work with, I always encourage, like, gone are the days of the labels creating these industry plants and creating these artists. Like, artists really need to stand on their own and be themselves, and people will connect with that. So that's our stance on that.
Right, just getting that authentic, that authenticity, and that's what always ends up connecting, you know, with the fan base. So then that kind of rolls into my next question of, like, how do you manage your fan engagement? Like, what tools or resources do you use to keep your fans engaged? We can go with Noor first.
I feel like Madam Gandhi does a really good job of that on her own. Like, she really loves to interact with her fans and like really encourages people to like message her or comment on her stuff, or like will post the same video she posts on her feed, on her stories, that people can respond directly to her and like have those conversations in her DMs. And like, she genuinely enjoys doing that. And I think that really helps. But on top of that, I think she's a really relatable person. Like Charlene, you were saying that that Trippie is like unapologetically himself. I think that's really relatable to people. Like, it makes people like you because they feel like they're seeing the truest form of you on the internet, when, like, you know, the misconception is that like you can't be yourself on the internet, you're just like creating an image. But yeah, I feel like when you are down to interact with people and like be that kind of artist, people are really receptive to that.
And I can go with Brittney.
I was just about to jump in. Yeah, I agree with Noor, everything she said. Dax does a really good job of interacting with his fans. He likes to call them family. That's like the highlight of him being an artist. He literally will respond to every single message when he uploads a video. And I think that's what makes him super likable. That's why people are drawn to, you know, him, because of his engagement. We use things like Superphone, which is you can text your fans or people who, you know, there's a number that they can communicate with you directly outside of social media. But yeah, I think it starts with the artist again, and their activity and willingness to engage on a regular basis.
And Charlene, do you have anything to add to it?
Yeah, just piggybacking on everything they said, our biggest tool that we use is just social media in general. So we're on all the platforms, TikTok, Triller, IG. We try to stay on the front line of what's going on. Like, for example, Reels is going on IG, so we're getting ready to drop some content, just things like that. Just trying to stay in front of everything before it becomes a massive trend is what we typically try to do, so.
And if I could kind of add to, ask a follow-up question in terms of that, how do you know what's coming out next? Do you, like, what resources do you use to keep in mind, you know, that Reels is coming out or something of that nature?
Just really paying attention to the trades. I mean, we work in the industry, so you always have to know what's going on. Music industry, worldwide, like Billboard, just all the public trades, and then also internal conversations with your peers and things like that. You know, it's not really rocket science. Like, the information is always available. You just have to be willing to find it.
Also, I feel like the middle schoolers are always ahead of the curve. So you got to know some middle schoolers or make friends with some.
Okay, and it looks like we do have Trophy on here. Trophy, you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. Hi, guys.
Hi. If you could just say like a brief introduction, how you got into the artist management deal, and then we can continue with the rest of the questions. So excited that you're on here.
Okay, so my name is Julissa. I go by the name of Trophy. I have been basically I am a A&R slash artist manager. I started managing maybe 4 years ago when I had an artist named Jeezy Mula, who's currently incarcerated. I started working with him, and I didn't have the resources to be a manager, but it forced me, being asked to step up to the plate, it forced me to actually go back to school and get an internship at 300 Entertainment, where I was able to get the resources and meet people and make the connections in order to actually be able to help him when he came home. Yeah, I think I can attest to not having a perfect management situation. I have a situation where it's like, it's like basically like people like Lil Durk and Kodak Black who have had situations where they've had to face being incarcerated. I can attest to the fact that you can still have a fruitful career and still engage with your fans and still do a lot of things even though the circumstances. But yeah, I'm gonna just keep it short.
Okay, and did you have anything to add in terms of fan engagement? I mean, and being able to pivot in terms of having an artist that is incarcerated, or any marketing campaigns that have proven successful for you guys?
Yeah, being that he is incarcerated, I've had to have a lot of content stacked up. Use whatever you can. I just put out a video a week ago. And even though he's not here, it still performed pretty well because it was a lot of stuff that people didn't see yet. It was very raw content. People like to see that, people being in their rarest form and, being vulnerable and, it's just a unfortunate situation. So, people seeing him like that, it performed really well. You also want to have maybe a social media schedule where you can look at that and okay, I won't be stagnant because I know I'm going to post a clip of an interview this day, or I'm going to post a trailer or a picture, video, anything. So I think, just staying ahead of what you're going to be posting is very important.
Okay, so authenticity, looking at, websites like Billboard, and I'm just recapping for everyone and myself. So obviously we are in a time of COVID, and we know that artists get a lot of their money from touring. So can you please explain the pivoting that you've had to do during COVID with not being able to tour, and what you found most successful in those type of strategies? And I can go with Charlene first.
Yeah, I know for us, and this actually kind of piggybacks on what Trophy said, right? Like, as artist managers, this shit can change at any moment. Anything can happen. Your artist can go to jail. I mean, I'm really good friends with Peter, who managed Juice WRLD. His artist passed away. Like, anything can happen. And so you have to be able to pivot and turn on a dime and think outside the box, because you're going to be in situations that you didn't expect. It's not part of the plan. And COVID definitely was one of those. For us, I really paid attention to Tripp very early on in what his interests were and what he liked. Just hanging out with him, spending time with him. Obviously he loves weed. His name is Trippie Red. So I was like, yo, when he turns 21, let's work on a weed deal. He's a gamer. We're working on some gaming things. He is dipped his toe into acting. He did a couple episodes on Dave, and he loves it. He loves anime. He loves animation. So for us, I started focusing on all those other things outside of the music that he was interested in, and trying, and even that, you know, pivoting in that sense has still been hard because, you know, film production crews and things like that, everyone is shut down. But it was just building the story and building the plan and trying to have those preliminary conversations so that when those avenues do open back up, we can hit the ground running. So for us, I just focused on the other things that he was interested in: film, TV, fashion, gaming. Literally, I just started reaching out to everyone and having those conversations and doing all those Zoom calls to show interest in doing them with him so he can get very involved in that side of the business too, because we all had to pivot, because Lord knows we may not be touring in the US anytime soon. I mean, it may be 2022 before you see a tour here. So we definitely had to start thinking outside the box. And I know for us too, you know, everyone is doing these live streams. We're being very intentional with what we're doing. Very early on, I noticed all these artists were doing it and they were all doing it for free. And I was like, nope, unless I get a check from Instagram, I'm not doing that shit for free. Like, we got money to make. If he was Beyonce and making Beyonce money, then yeah, you can go on there, you can hop on there and do all the free shows you want. But we're not at that level yet. So I had to be very intentional, and I had to tell a lot of people no. And I'm sure they weren't very pleased and they didn't understand, but now that artists are getting paid for doing these live streams, now they understand why I waited and I had to hold out. Because Trippie even looked at me and was like, oh, I'm gonna go on IG tonight. And I was like, no, you're not, because we're not getting a check. Let's wait till we get that check. And he was like, okay, you're right. So it was about making those tough decisions early on, because everyone was panicking and wanting to get content out there. So it's just, you know, learning your artist and waiting for the right time, for the right opportunity, even amidst like a crisis.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely knowing your worth and leveraging that, and, you know, waiting it out for the big payout in the end. Brittney, do you want to answer next?
Yes, totally agree with everything Charlene just said. One thing about management is you always have to be 10 steps ahead of everything, you know? So how we work is we always, like, we have, I don't even know if I should say that, but we have like music ready for the next 3 projects. We have enough content, you know, to last a year, you know, if anything ever happened. We always just work in that way in general. But I think the COVID has forced us to look at other ways to build on, you know, different avenues of revenue streams. So, you know, merch is one of those things. You know, how can we expand the merch to, you know, make people more interested in buying that? Gaming, you know, we've been doing a lot more syncs and pitching. You know, one of Dax's songs, Faster, is in the new UFC video game, and we have some other stuff coming out. So, you know, there's already things that's already out there, like movies, TV shows that are already available. So how can we get music involved in there? You know, that comes with the check. You know, like Charlene said, just being smart, just waiting. They have the whole live stream performance thing now. So taking a look at that, how can we tap into that and have a brand pay for us to do a show, and just being really just unconventional and just thinking outside of the box. Like, there is no one answer to this because it's still changing ongoingly. But I think the best thing about this time is having an artist that's independent, because one thing that we can control is how we release content, how we put out music, and which is still able to be monetized. So that's really the benefit. Just always thinking 10 steps ahead. So regardless if it was COVID, something can always happen. So you should always be ready no matter what. Oh, and also acting, you know, one thing that we always try to do, everything is intentional, from what's posted on social media to, you know, a tweet. Everything is fully thought out, right? So one of the things that we can control, what I always say is, like, what can we control? We can't control what somebody else can give us. But one thing we can control is how we create the art. So one of the things that we try to do is Dax is gonna eventually evolve into acting. So we utilize the music videos to show his acting ability and just be very adamant and conscious about how we deliver the content. So that's all.
Okay. Trophy, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just wanna, cause I'm working with another artist as well, and he's not really touring yet, but we are still like, you know, just trying to be creative and building his fan base and like recreating, you know, live performances and stuff like that, and you know, just doing things that, you know, haven't been done before, like, you know, using resources and, you know, whatever camera person he has, you know, near him to, you know, make intimate video content for his fans right now. So, yeah.
And last but not least, but Noor, you have anything additional to add?
Yeah, it was weird for me in COVID because between the three artists that I work with, Madam Gandhi, Winter, and Mamalarchy, they were all in really different stages of like a cycle. So like Gandhi was just wrapping up all the content for an album and like getting ready to write new music, whereas Winter was about to release an album in July, and Mamalarchy was like just finishing writing an album and getting ready to release that, you know, in like starting to roll out stuff a month from now. So it's interesting to think about like how COVID affected those artists in the different stages, because even though touring is like a huge like profitable thing in the music industry, like it can also prohibit you from being able to take time to do stuff like sit down in one place and write a record. So like in a way it was kind of timely for Madam Gandhi, because now we have time to sit back and prepare for that and like come up with other content to put out in between like now and when the album's going to come out. Like we just put out one remix record at the beginning of this month, and we have another one coming out that we did a remix competition for in October. So like that's one thing we could do from, you know, afar, social distanced, like just putting out a remix record. And then like it was tough to know, you know, whether it was even the right time to put out an album, because if you can't tour around it, then what? But I feel like Charlene, Brittney, and Trophy just said, like, you have to be super creative. You have to think 10 steps ahead and think, if I can't tour around this album, what can I do instead? Like, can I put together a show? Can I put together a series so that people are still able to interact with me and interact with the music, you know? So it is really about just coming up with, you know, quick solutions and like figuring out a way to make it work. Because honestly, like there are artists who can't tour in general, who like have a disability or like have an illness that doesn't allow them to tour. So like, how can we make that work for somebody like that too, if we were to manage an artist who can't tour, you know?
Right. So common theme is, regardless if we were in a world pandemic, you guys still, as managers, are always thinking of innovative ways and, you know, thinking 10 steps ahead. So now and I do thank you for all of your information. I hope everyone, like I did, found this insightful, because I did. But we're gonna go ahead and get into the Q&A portion of the panel. And I know, Charlene, you do have to leave a little bit earlier before the panel is up, so I just wanted to point that out. But I guess if people can just raise their hands, and I will go through and unmute people as best as I can. And I'm gonna try to alleviate trying to do the chat, because that gets a little convoluted too quickly. So if you wanna raise your hand, and I will unmute you, and then you can ask your question. Okay, Travis is literally raising his hand, so go right ahead.
Oh, sorry, I remuted myself. Well, first of all, I want to say I love the band Winter. I have one of those pink Winter hats. I saw them in San Francisco 2 years ago. And so my question is, so my friend who works with the Dead Mouse label, Mousetrap, they approached him because they're like, he was pretty self-sufficient, like creating stuff, yet he was active on social media. And so my question is, and I've heard this a lot more lately, as like in a modern way of management, is like managers will look for an artist who's pretty much already self-sufficient and needs that extra help. Essentially at that point is when they need a manager. Like, how true is that? And also, at what point do you think an artist is ready for a manager?
Go Trophy.
Trophy.
I think that you want to incorporate a manager when there are things to manage, like shows, money, merch, appearances. You know, when it gets to that level, that's when you know that you want to implement somebody that can do the things that you can't do because you're busy being an artist. So that's my answer.
I was just gonna say that I'm a really strong proponent of artists doing as much as they can on their own until they absolutely need to, like Trophy was saying, just because I feel like it's important for artists to learn about every part of the music industry so that A, you can't be taken advantage of, and B, you know exactly what needs to happen with your project on a day-to-day basis, like literally to the minutia. Like, it really helps you succeed. And even when you have a manager, you're still managing something, you know, like it's not going to be less work for you. In fact, you're bringing on a manager to bring more to you, you know? So I do feel like it's important for you to first teach yourself what the role of a manager even is before you hire a manager or bring on a label or bring on a press person or bring on a publisher. Like, you should know what's happening in those fields as well.
I definitely want to piggyback on what Noor and Trophy said, because, you know, I know these ladies probably get approached a lot too. I get approached by a lot of artists saying, you know, I want you to manage me. And the first thing I'll say is, well, how many Spotify followers do you have? And they're like, oh, I haven't released any music. And I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing to manage yet. And I want to work with an artist. We as managers, our job is to bring and create opportunities and advise. We're not miracle workers, right? Like, I can't create opportunities out of nothing, right? So I like to work with artists when there's skin in the game. If you've been doing shows and you've been releasing music through different platforms like DistroKid and hustling and doing it on your own, then I'm ready to partner with you, because I can't do more work than you do as an artist. It's not going to be balanced, and it's not going to work. So you have to have skin in the game. You have to be working on your own, like Noor said, and getting out there and promoting yourself and growing your followership, not just on social media, but like I said, also on Spotify, trying to push and get on these playlists, like meeting and greeting these people, these playlisters, to get known and be out there. So like I said, we are to present opportunities, but as an artist, you have to do the same. You have to put in a lot of the legwork to show us that you're ready to partner, because it really is a partnership.
And then if I could just add to that, I always like to say, you shouldn't be looking for a manager. The manager will find you if you're doing what you need to do. You know, just focus on your art and your craft and make sure that you're being consistent. You know, DMing people or trying to find someone to magically help you be successful is not the way. If you do your part, it will come. Trust and believe that.
Thank you all so much. Oh, sorry.
I want to add one thing, which is that my bandmate Livy in Mamalarchy just joined, but it reminded me that when I joined Mamalarchy, Livy was literally like doing everything herself, like grassroots pitching to radio, like pitching. She was doing her own press, like everything. And Livy's like the most talented guitarist I've ever met, but like she busts her ass for this project. And that's why I joined Mamalarchy and was like, yes, like let's manage this shit together. And we literally will just sit in a living room and like sit on emails, like typing away for like 7 hours at a time, because that's what you got to do. And like, that's what you have to do as an artist too, if you know, want to be successful.
Okay. So, yeah, just as a reminder, Bobbin just popped in the Google Docs. You guys can put in all your information for networking purposes in the Google Doc. Please do so. So the next question, I think I saw, there are a lot of questions, and I'm sorry, I'm going to try to get to all of them. Kaylee, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I literally have a whole page of notes from all of you, so thank you. But my question is, especially because this is a women panel, a lot of times I am the only woman in a session, in a meeting, in even a class. I'm taking an audio engineering class, finishing up my senior year. And most of the time it's okay, but I've definitely, I think it's pretty common to say that I've definitely had like questionable experiences, or like people say things like about me being a woman and here and whatever. So I'm just curious as to kind of like what you all do to, I guess, not stand up for yourself, but just like be the badass that you are, I guess. Yeah.
I'll go. Nip that shit in the bud early, right? Like, it's not gonna be comfortable. It is the most uncomfortable thing, right? But you got to think about it. That person made you feel uncomfortable, so you got to speak up for yourself. I'll give you a prime example. I was at the label at the time, and I had an artist manager. Every time I was on the phone with him, he called me baby or love or sweetie, like some sort of pet name. And I stopped him and I said, listen, do you call my counterpart at the time? His name is Chris. I was like, do you call Chris baby and sweetie? He was like, no. I was like, okay, then please don't do it to me. Let's continue. Like, you nip it and you move on. Don't make it a thing, but you nip it in the bud early. If someone brings up the fact that you're a woman, thank you for noticing that I'm a female. Let's move on, because that's not discounting my work. And just move on. You got to just nip it and go, but nip that shit in the bud early. Don't let that happen to you repeatedly. And like I said, it feels uncomfortable to say something at first, but then once you do it, it feels so good, because you're like, oh, I stuck up for myself. I did it. And you'll be ready. It's almost like you wait for somebody to say something. Then it actually doesn't even happen anymore, because I feel like you're putting that out in the universe that you're not going to take that shit. So nip it in the bud early is my advice.
And I think that's very good advice. I also think it takes a lot of leaning in from our male counterparts. So Marquise or Chasm, do you have anything to say to that, or anything that you can add in terms of keeping that, like, just the respect of women working in the industry? No. Oh.
You're talking to me?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I just had a lot. As far as like respect for women, nah. When it comes to women, I just make sure like like they're respected to the utmost standard. I never look at like a female like, oh yeah, like she's cute and everything. Like I literally look to see like what you could bring to the table. That's the first thing that I always think about. I don't even look at looks, because if you could bring something to the table, then it's better than just thinking with with your other head instead of your brain. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sorry, I'm like going through a lot right now, so I'm sorry if I.
No, I think you had to. I understand, but yeah, I was just speaking to saying that as women, we do need that as well from men in the industry. Like how you said, you don't view
right.
You're not thinking with that head, you're thinking with this head. That ideal needs to be shared and upheld with other men, throughout the industry.
Yeah,
and I'll kind of chime back in on that too. Trippie and crew, they are very protective of me. I love them because there's been times, obviously I've been mansplained and heated all the time. And there's times someone walks in the room or they'll walk in the studio and they will introduce themselves and the guys will say, so Charlene is his manager and she's over there. Like they course correct it, because a lot of guys will walk by me, won't speak, won't say anything. And I'll be like, we have a whole meeting and you didn't know it was me. So the guys are very good about making sure that I'm recognized and I'm protected, because I wish somebody would say something crazy to me in front of them. It'll be a whole war in the studio, but that's because they respect me to that level that they protect me as well. So it is important to have, guys around you that are allies that will protect you as well and may speak up on your behalf in the event you get uncomfortable too.
Tiffany, can I add something to that? To piggyback off of what Charlene was saying, we do not take that energy at all from men, at all. Kaylee, and I know I've spoken to you about this many times. We are lady bosses. I'm just gonna say this to everybody on this call. We don't take any bad energy from people who are not going to respect us. And Tiffany and I just had this conversation the other day. And with the work that we do in the music industry, it doesn't matter if you're a man, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, you need to demand respect from your peers and the people that you're working with. And exactly what Charlene was saying, you have to have allies, you have to have people around you. I mean, women are marginalized, the LGBTQ people are marginalized, Black people are marginalized. Regardless of wherever you are in your space, you need to demand that respect from every single person that you're working with. And so I love, Charlene, that Trippie and I'm not sure who else you said, but Trippie and one of the other partners that you work with demand that respect for you, because as leaders in the music industry, we need to demand that respect for ourselves as well. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I love this question. All right, so Tiffany, back to you.
Does anyone have anything else to add to this particular question?
Yeah, so I feel like on the other side of that coin, like you're always allowed to say no to things, like big opportunities when you get a weird vibe from it. Like if I was mansplained about a opportunity, like, or I've got a weird vibe from it, I would entirely say no, no matter how big it is, because it's never worth that energy and that effort. And I feel like it's almost more beneficial for you to create those spaces for yourself that do feel safe and that do feel, that do feel equal. For example, like Madam Gandhi, our whole team is female, gender non-conforming, just because that's, what makes her feel good, what makes us feel good. That's what works best for us. Not to say we don't love working with men, we often do, but they have to be really empathetic and in touch with their femme and loving to women. And with Mamalarchy, we make a really concerted effort when we book shows to book shows with not all dude bands, because the kinds of people you play with also attract the audience that you want to be catering to. And it's really important to us that we know the backgrounds of the people that we're working with, so that we feel safe when we play shows, when we go into the studio, when we go to a shoot. We will do our best not to put ourselves and each other in that position. And we're really lucky that the men in our band as well will protect us to the ends of the earth as well. And we would do the same for them if it came to it. So it's all about surrounding yourself with the people that you feel safe around and taking the opportunities that you feel safe doing as well when you're a woman in the industry.
And I just want to add one more thing, because I think it's also important to say that sometimes you can't control who you work with. Like for instance, I think the young lady said working in the studio environment, sometimes you may not know the engineer or whomever. So I think there may always be something, with men in this industry, but it starts with us, your intentions. You have to set that foundation initially. I'm not interested in you in this way, or I am the boss, you know, I'm in charge and I'm the person that you need to speak to. So if you always walk with a certain intention, then you're going to get that respect back, even if you get pushed back. I mean, there's a lot of things in this industry we could talk about, but it really starts with you. So you have to walk with that confidence. Otherwise, they're going to eat you alive.
All very, very good answers. And yes, self-love, self-care, I will just add on to that. That all feeds into what you put out and what you exude. So I'm gonna let Cartier, I believe, ask a question. I think I just unmuted you.
Hi, my name is Cartier, and I'm originally from Cleveland, but now I'm in Columbus. So when I heard Canton, Ohio, I was like, that's what's up.
That's
out here.
I'm not trying to dish your Bay Area. Sorry, Alexis.
But I've had my management firm, Carnelian Productions, since 2018, and I'm kind of in this position where I'm relaunching it, you know, getting my socials online, creating my web presence so I can like better, you know, advertise, you know, the company as well as the artists that I've worked with. And you ladies have already touched on this on the first question, but especially when it comes to developing talent, I guess I would want a bit more of your opinion and perspective on, like, here's a guy who, for example, like, you know, he's really just starting out on SoundCloud, doesn't have that many followers. Like, at what point would you say, okay, like, let's jump onto like Spotify now, you know, kind of like how, but you see the question was kind of already answered, but I guess to make it more clear, really, what's the lowest level artist or musician you would work with, like, invest your time in to?
I think I'll answer that first, I guess. I move by my spirit and the energy. So sometimes you may not have all the followers or the, you know, the numbers that most people will be looking for, but maybe there's a connection. Maybe there's something that I see in you and I'm willing to take a chance to build and grow with you. But I know some people, if they aren't already established or if there isn't some sort of income that's being able to be made out of the situation, then they won't even look at it. But, you know, I kind of move by the energy, you know, like how I feel. How does the music make me feel? How do you make me feel? There's some artists that I work with that I'm consulting for, and I'm just keeping that relationship there and working with them to some degree until they get to a certain point where we can do a lot more together.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I mess with that heavy, actually, so thank you.
And to piggyback on what Brittney said, it's also believing in their talent, right? Like any job that I've ever had in life, I could not work for a company that I didn't believe in. And I'm finding now that as an artist manager, it's the same way. Like if I don't believe in you, your talent, if we don't vibe, like Brittney said, if we don't connect on a deeper level, then it's not gonna work. So you really just kind of have to soul search, because obviously there's going to be artists that you have a vibe with and you connect with, and they may only have 3 followers on SoundCloud. You really have to figure out, is that something you want to invest your time in? And can you invest your time into it? Because it is going to take an investment. And if they're willing to put in the work to match your work, then to me, it is an opportunity for you to do that, especially if you believe in the talent.
Got it. Thank you.
I'd like to say something too. One thing that I always like to ask myself when I'm presented with an artist is, if Diddy was sitting right next to me eating, would I tap him and talk about this artist?
Yeah. Oh,
if you're not willing to go above and beyond, if you wouldn't chase somebody's car to just tell them about this artist, then maybe that's probably not, it's probably maybe not right now, or maybe it's not the right opportunity. You know, you just got to ask yourself, would you go above and beyond in this situation? And then, you know, make the decision from there.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, all very, very good answers. And we have a question in the chat. It was to you, Charlene. Let me find it. Or Shireen. can you unmute yourself? Are you able just to ask it? No? Okay. I think it was asking about during your 90-day preliminary consulting trial with Trippie, she asked what services did you offer?
Well, it's case by case, but I know with my management company, we have like a la carte services, right? Like if you need someone for Trippie, at the time he had a management team, he had all the pieces, parts, but the communication, there was a breakdown in communication. So I came in and helped get all the teams on board between his booking agent, his business manager, the lawyer, the label, and his management team. I got everyone on the same page and we got the wheels turning. And that's when when and why Life's a Trip came out. But like I said, we do a la carte services. So if you need consulting for social media, we do that. If you need consulting to help build a team, because a lot of times once artists, and I will just give this to y'all for free, the first person that you should hire on your team, and the most important person in my opinion, is your lawyer. Your lawyer is the person that's going to help negotiate the deals, read the contracts. Like there's tons of contracts that I've read and I've noticed that in a paragraph, one sentence or one word in that sentence, it could completely flip the language of the contract. So it is hella important for you to have a lawyer that you can trust. I just think about recently what like the Migos are going through with their lawyer, and you want someone that's going to have your back and not be tied to the label and not necessarily be tied to management or anyone. They have to be tied to you as an artist, because they are the ones that can protect you from signing yourself into slavery or signing a really shitty deal that'll hold you back or hinder you. So that's one of the biggest important people to me on the team. But we offer a lot of different services, like I said, a la carte, from streaming, digital marketing, team building, consulting with distribution, all those good things. So there's very different things. It's on a case by case, but it all depends on what the artist needs at the time.
Okay. And then I want to go to Lottie. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, yeah. So just first off, just want to say thank you so much, ladies, for being here. I appreciate you guys sharing your story and all the advice. My question for you is in terms of how you approach someone that you want to manage. I know a couple of you guys said that the artist reached out to you or someone representing the artist reached out to you, but if you see someone that you want to manage, how do you approach them in such a way that you're able to kind of start building that relationship and talk about how you can offer value to them before you start getting into like signing contracts and all of that?
So I definitely was one of the people who mentioned like every artist who I work with kind of like fell into my lap or asked me to help them out. But the first, like real music industry job I ever had was with Awful Records. And I was basically like a management assistant. And then they kind of brought me on as a project manager later on. And the way I got that job was I straight up asked them if they needed any help. That's literally all I did. I was like, do you need any help? Because I'm down to help. And I sent them my resume. And that's how I got that job. And like so much of the time, artists need so much help. And because there's always so much to do, there's always something that needs, another person on it. So that's definitely a good way to do it. And when, on the Madam Gandhi project, we've brought people on, it's usually because somebody has reached out and they're like, hey, would you be willing to talk like just about, working in the music industry? Like would love some advice. And then it ends up being the kind of thing where we're like, oh, we're actually looking to like hire an intern. Are you down to try that out? So like ask for sure. That's always helped me.
Thank you.
Yes, ask and you shall receive. That is definitely my mantra, and it's definitely has worked for me. I can attest. So next question, I will go to Zaire, I believe. I apologize if I'm pronouncing names wrong as well. Do you want to answer or ask your question, Zaire?
Yes, that's me. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Hi. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, first I just want to say thank you to everyone for all your great advice. So I recently started a music blog a month ago, and my question was, what are the best strategies for like music blogs, music curators on Instagram, and like what roles can they play in like expansion, and what can they do to expand?
Zaire, I have a question. When you say expand, what do you mean? Like grow your followership and grow your fan base?
Yes.
Okay. I would say, in my opinion, definitely find your lane and find your voice. And when I say find your lane, do you want to just talk about underground artists? Do you want to just focus on mainstream? I feel like if you're on instead of being on the cutting edge, if you're on the bleeding edge of what's happening in the industry in terms of artists bubbling up, then that would make you stand out, because there are so many artists, there's so much content, there's so much music coming out consistently. So find what you want to hone in on specifically and find that kind of pocket, not so much niche, but you want to find a pocket of what you want to talk about that's going to interest your fans specifically, or what fan base you're trying to get. Because like I said, if you focus on the underground market or the underground circuit, you really can probably help break some artists or put people on that, don't traditionally, that none of us would know. And then that would make you that go-to person. Like people are going to search for you because you're the person finding all these obscure artists that are really dope.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that was my kind of direction that I wanted to go in, was new artists. The last time I was on this Zoom call, someone told me, to follow like the unsigned heat or unsigned artists on like Instagram and, reach out and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's where I would start. I would do that for starters. And like I said, and find a way to exploit them. And if you can talk to them and get exclusives and find out information, like if they're releasing a song on Friday, but you blog about it that Wednesday, like that, you gotta get some sort of heat or get something that makes it spicy and juicy that no one else would know before you. And that would be the draw and appeal to your blog specifically.
And I'll also add to that and say, just try to bring something else to the table outside of the vlog. Maybe the vlog includes like a playlist. Maybe you create a Spotify and start creating the playlist for these undiscovered artists. And now they have something to look forward to. You create an interest there by, categorizing these unsigned artists. And now, they start promoting your blog. So just add something else that's outside of just an interview or something like that. Try to find another thing that you can connect it to.
And another solid piece of advice would be to find the publicists and get on their mailing lists, because then they will just be sending you a message whenever people do have something coming out. So then you can be on the forefront of that release and be one of the first people writing about it.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Yes, and we are running a little over, but I will allow one more question. I think Dee's Lyric, are you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate all y'all advice. It's D Lyrics, and I'm a music creator, producer. And I'm not sure if I need a manager, but I know that I'm presenting my music to Sony on Tuesday. So I'm just wondering, if they choose me as somebody to work with, then would I need a manager? And what would you do to manage me? I'm not sure how that works.
Not trying to be in the business, but what kind of meeting is it?
it's with a panel. The panel is presenting different people's music to Sony on that day. And I'm very confident in my music. So
is this like a third-party service, or is it someone specifically like an A&R from Sony?
No, this is like I would say a third-party service. This is a company that is their music company. They're presenting different artists to different, to Sony. So that's what that is. And like, I'm very confident in my music. I'm sort of like DJ Khaled, you know. I want to put out my own album of my own stuff that I want to do. So, but I'm not an artist per se. You see what I'm saying? So I have other people that's artists that are on my music, and I'm presenting it that way.
Okay. I don't know the situation, but what I'll say is make sure you always ask questions. You know, if you're a producer, it's more so you should be connecting with artists, you know, to be on your song. Like, what's the intention, I guess? Like, what you're trying to sign to Sony as a artist?
I'm just trying to get my foot in the door, like, to work with them as a producer. So, I mean, if that works for me, then hey, you know, I'm just trying to be able to get my foot in the door with different companies or different artists to work with. I mean,
what I'll say is I used to be an A&R, and how we worked with producers were you have to establish the relationship with the A&R or somebody from the label. I don't know this panel. I don't know. They got all kind of stuff nowadays, but the A&R is typically the person that you would connect with, and they would reach out to you. Hey, can you send me some beats? Such and such is working on a project. And that's normally how that relationship works. You don't have to do that. So what I would suggest is make sure you know who your music is going to, and make sure you know who the A&Rs are, and you know their roster, so that you can start to build a relationship with them or the manager of the artist. And that's really how that works. I wouldn't really focus on trying to get signed, because it doesn't really work like that. You sign as a producer, like, to a publishing company, but that's a whole nother ball game. So I would just encourage you to, to seek out A&Rs and music managers to send your beats to.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think it is A&R people that is going to be listening that day. So
I have a question, a follow-up question, and I hope I'm not prying. Did you have to pay for this service?
Yeah, there is a fee to enter. Yeah, there's a fee to enter your music to it. It's don't do that.
Don't listen. I've worked for Sony.
A couple of people was like, nah, girl, don't even.
Yeah. I worked for Sony, and I've not heard of this. So that's why I was like, and it sounds a little fishy. And yes, Brittney is absolutely correct. It's building those relationships with the A&R or the audio engineers. Like, our engineer is the one who gets beats to Trippie, and I'm sure y'all about to start blowing up his Instagram. Go ahead. It's at Live Touch. Anyway, but yeah, building relationships with engineers and A&R is how you get those beats to the artists. A lot of times, if you can't meet them directly, be very leery of people or companies that say you have to pay and they can present something to a company, because that usually, unless they can give you very detailed information and you can Google them or find them on LinkedIn and see that they actually work for that company or have worked with that company, I wouldn't pay anybody to present anything, because usually that's not how it works.
They work with like many they work in the music industry. One of them is a manager and a tour person. They're called, I'm about to tell you now, they're the Journey Management. That's the name of them, the Journey Management. And they do have a discovery panel every week where they talk with a lot of artists, and they have like a contest that's going on right now. So I entered their contest, and what they have right now is called, let me see, it says the artist feedback session. So they have an artist feedback session and where they're going to be presenting it to Sony. And that's what it is. It's only like a $35 fee to enter your music into it.
Okay, Dee, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude, but I do want to be respectful of the other people who have questions. But if not, you can link, possibly, to the women on the panel. But I did want to get this one last question through to Sheridan. You there? I know you've had your hand up for a long time.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you guys again for doing this. So my question is about negotiations. So Charlene kind of touched with it, with having a good entertainment lawyer on your side. But as someone who's a new manager, what's some advice that you can share about negotiation? Because it can be very intimidating.
I feel like always aim high and have a reason for aiming that high. So if you live in Los Angeles, someone's asking you to play a show out in Georgia, in Atlanta, for example, you can ask for a higher rate because you have to travel out, or they might be like, oh, you're maybe you can book a tour around it though. So then maybe you can go lower, but then find other shows to play around, so it's, I don't know. Yeah. Just always go higher and then they'll shoot lower, but know the value of your work. And I feel like if you don't know what a normal rate might be, just, maybe ask around and figure out what that baseline might be.
Gotcha.
I think if you're new to it, like Charlene said earlier, the attorney is really the key. If I don't know specifically what you're negotiating, but if it's a deal, if you get you a good attorney and you start to see how that process is, that will open your eyes and ears up as to how that process goes for the future. But in general, always keep your options open. Always go to more than one person, whether it's a show, venue, whatever. Always have something to kind of come back to, so you can kind of get what you want. But yeah, always aim high, higher than what you want, and then you're gonna kind of work your way down to the rate that you really deserve. So but the attorney is really that person that you would kind of follow when it comes to negotiations.
Gotcha.
I want to say something too. You definitely want to aim high, but you also want to be realistic too. There's a lot of managers that get in their own way, and not to put a worth on anyone, but the artist might be worth $100,000, but they want a deal for $3 million, and you get in your own way and you block your own blessings. So you definitely want to do your research, and see what's done similarly. Obviously, you want to shoot for the stars and aim for the moon, and just make sure what's out there, and you're not aiming too high. But yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Well, yes. I think, like I said, the questions went a little bit over, but I think that was all good. They were great. It was good info. Has this been helpful to everyone? I hope so. I definitely wanted it to be stuff that you could take and, actionably use towards your goals and ambitions. And again, everything that I think has been said could be used towards that. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. So now it's kind of the networking section. I know Bhavin has been dropping the Google link in, so feel free to leave, but feel free to stay if, like I said, you wanted to chat and reconnect. And we can really, get a little bit more of an intimate, conversation going. But again, I do want to thank the panelists so much. This has been awesome. Claps, cheers. You guys feel free to unmute yourselves so that they can hear the roses and hear the claps. You guys.
We love you. You're all amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the advice.
Clap really quietly, but I'm talking a lot.
Thank you so